Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellencies, distinguished delegates, honored guests. A very warm welcome to our 7th Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Science and Technology Conference, SnT2023. And what a venue this is! We're so excited to be here at the Hofburg Palace in the beautiful city of Vienna in Austria, and to have all of you with us, of course. In fact, I've been told that we are joined by more than 1,000 scientists, engineers, researchers, academics, member state ambassadors and delegates, international organizations and civil society representatives, and journalists too. Somebody has to spread the word. And they're all here, all of you are here to take part in this important, and I would also add, timely forum. And at this moment in time, I would also like to welcome all the participants who are joining us online. I don't know if I can see you here or there. And you're using us via our live stream platform, namely Super Event. And I don't know where in the world you're joining us from or what time of day it is, so good morning to you, good evening, good afternoon. It is very good to have you with us. Today's opening event is also being offered with interpretation into all official CTBTO languages. That is for our on-site guests here. And this is the very first time this is being done for a Science and Technology Conference high-level opening. And this is part of the CTBTO's commitment to reach more people in more languages and in more places for a truly inclusive and a truly global experience. I think it's about time for me to introduce myself, just very, very briefly. My name is Monica Jones. I am a freelance conference moderator and news anchor at German international TV broadcaster Deutsche Welle, also known as DWTV, based in Berlin. And I'm absolutely delighted to be here in Vienna with all of you today, and truly honored to be the moderator of this morning's high-level opening, and in doing so, to help kick off what will be, no doubt, an incredible conference of cross-disciplinary engagement, knowledge sharing, and innovation. You are going to be very, very busy over the next few days because over the course of this week, attendees, namely you, will explore everything from the achievements of a comprehensive nuclear test ban treaty to the science and the technology that is used for nuclear test monitoring, all the way to how each and every one of us in our own capacity can contribute to moving us closer to a world free of nuclear tests. That is the aim, that is what we're striving for. This morning, and you can already see the lectern here, we'll be joined by distinguished speakers who will share with us their vision of fulfilling the promise of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, which, if I may add, is a need that is just as urgent today, if not perhaps even more so than it was when the treaty opened for signature. That was back in 1996. But it is a goal that is well within reach. We will also hear from a very diverse panel that will explore how the CTBT, and in particular the monitoring system that it has built, is paying an unexpected peace dividend and is benefiting or delivering benefits for humanity in a way that even the treaty's authors could not have imagined. This is going to be very, very interesting. We will have a lunch break because, after all, we're all human and we want you to stay fit and keep your strength. And after that lunch break, the rich discussions continue as we will explore the role of multilingualism as a key facilitator of international diplomacy, and the cooperation between the European Union and CTBTO as an enabler of nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament efforts. Today's program will conclude with 3 concurrent panel discussions that will delve into the mutual benefits between Arabic-speaking countries and the CTBTO, regional capacity building in Francophone Africa, and the role of CTBT data in disaster risk mitigation. Those are being held in Arabic, French, and Spanish, respectively. So, as you can see from the lineup, this conference is about having a global conversation, and we encourage all our participants here at the Hofburg Palace in Vienna, but also everyone who's joining us online, to join the discussion on social media using the hashtag SnT2023. Now, since the last Science and Technology Conference, in 2021 that was, we have seen renewed momentum for the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty's entry into force. 7 countries have ratified the treaty in less than 2 years, bringing the total number of ratifications to 177, and adding to the nearly universal demand that there be a permanent end to the threat of nuclear testing. Now, that charge for ratifications has been led by our first speaker. Let me just tell you a little bit about him. Dr. Robert Floyd became the 4th Executive Secretary of the CTBTO on August 1st in 2021. And since then, he has been at the forefront of the organization's efforts to eradicate nuclear testing as a threat to humanity. Now, for Dr. Floyd, his first day with the CTBTO had additional significance because it coincided with the 6th birthday of one of his grandchildren. And that was an occasion that he says caused him to reflect upon the importance of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and why its entry into force is imperative. Not just to create a world free of nuclear testing for his own grandchildren, but for all future generations. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, it is my great pleasure to welcome to the stage Executive Secretary of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, Dr. Robert Floyd.
Foreign Minister, Excellencies, scientific experts from around the world, colleagues and friends from around the world. I just have 2 special welcomes first to start with. It is a great honor to welcome the Foreign Minister of Somalia, Foreign Minister Harushi. You are welcome here. I so appreciated the opportunity to visit him in Somalia earlier this year. Your participation bears testament to Somalia's strong commitment to the CTBT, and I look forward to strengthening our cooperation. I also want to specially welcome the Undersecretary for Foreign Affairs from South Sudan, the youngest nation in the world. It is particularly important to see the youngest nation committing to the CTBT. You're going to hear more from these 2 gentlemen shortly, but very special welcome. But to everyone, welcome, both here in the room and those online. As you've heard, it's actually nearly 2,000 people that are either here or online at this conference this year. That is the largest number of people that we've had at a science and technology conference ever. So congratulations to you all for being a part of history. Let me start by talking directly to everyone who's actually here in this splendid hall. As you arrived here this morning, you must have been feeling worried, even nervous, because as you entered this hall, you looked up. You'd have a look up now. Isn't it amazing? You looked up and you saw this amazing, massive ceiling. And I'm sure you were thinking very hard indeed about the sheer weight of that ceiling, the colossal tension and pressures it exerts on the wooden beams, on the supporting walls, outward and downward. And you were wondering, won't that beautiful but very heavy ceiling fall down and squash us all? Well, call me an optimist, but I'm confident we will survive, at least until the end of my speech. That ceiling and roof of the Hofburg Palace is very strong. It is solid. All being well, the ceiling will look down on fine events like this one for generations, even centuries to come. But why? Why is it so solid? The people who built it had no computers. They had no email, no fancy design programs, not even TikTok. They had no calculators, no laser gadgets, no power tools. But what they did have was a way to measure things. They measured exactly what needed to be done to design and build this hall. Then they measured exactly how they were going to do it. And here is my point, friends. They could measure exactly because they had agreed standards of measurement. On Thursday this week, the date will be the 22nd of June. Let's go back exactly 225 years. I can see the French ambassador here. This one's for you, Excellency. Go back 224 years to the 22nd of June, 1799 in Paris. Not long after the French Revolution. On that day, something happened that changes the world. A metal bar representing a new standard measure, they called it the meter, is deposited in the National Archive in Paris. That bar has been carefully calculated. It's agreed to be 1/10,000,000th of the distance from the equator to the North Pole. They display copies of the bar on walls around Paris. People see what the new meter looks like, and they start using it in most countries. That bar can't measure itself. It sets the standard for measuring other things. This new standard catches on around the world. Science needs systematic measurement, right? And systematic standards. Not just for distance, for time, for mass, for temperature, for force, for stress, magnetism, electric current, radiation. But the principle stays the same. There's no measurement without an agreed standard of measurement. You can't be accurate without a standard for accuracy. Nowadays, things have moved on. We don't need a metal bar to define a meter. Instead, we set the standard as the distance that light travels in a vacuum in just under 3 nanoseconds. That's 10 to the minus 9. That is the distance of a meter. International standards have replaced national and local standards, or for ever greater levels of sophistication. Internationally recognized bodies have been set up under treaties, keeping those many standards in good order. This is why this gathering, here and online, has such symbolic and practical significance. We at the CTBTO have helped bring together about 1,775 scientists, technicians, experts, academics from around the world who use these standards. And mixed with the technical audience, we have at least 150 diplomats, and they represent the states around the world who've agreed the treaties, the conventions that set legal and policy framework. When we last counted, This conference brings together participants from about 147 countries, including the newest country in the world. Just think about all those languages, all those cultures. Yet we have one common language, the language of our internationally agreed scientific standards. Excellencies, colleagues, friends, this is the power of together. This is what the CTBTO, in partnership with all the state signatories, represents. The CTBTO mission stems from a simple obligation spelled out in Article 1 of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, which says each state party undertakes not to carry out any nuclear weapon test explosion or any other nuclear explosion. Our job is to detect any signs that that obligation has been broken. We're using sophisticated sensors and sophisticated measurement to detect possible nuclear explosion tests anywhere, anytime on Earth. We, collectively, are very, very good at detecting any explosion that might be a nuclear explosion. This makes them so much less likely to happen. Don't try it, you will get caught. Plenty of other national organizations and institutions around the world closely monitor seismic and other activities. They too can distinguish between an earthquake and a possible nuclear test, but the CTBTO is unique. We gather seismic data, measuring vibrations in the Earth's crust, seismometers measuring velocity in meters per second. They're carefully aligned with geographic north that allows us to determine the precise direction of seismic waves. We gather hydroacoustic data, measuring vibrations in the ocean. We gather infrasound data, measuring vibrations in the air. And we gather radionuclide data, looking for radioactive particles and gases from a nuclear explosion. In all of this, we partner with our state signatories, putting data and analytical capability into their hands. There's nothing else like this on Earth. It's not just that we bring all this data together and then analyze it speedily to formidable levels of accuracy. We're international. Our work is even-handed, is transparent. All the data is available to all our state signatories and can be shared with the world's scientific community. So I say loud and clear to everyone here today, scientists and diplomats alike, you and we together represent global teamwork at its finest. We share a simple political and moral goal: no more nuclear tests. And we share the best available technical ways to make sure we reach that goal. The treaty, the CTBTO set up under the treaty, the full participation of all of our state signatories, and the global network of scientists who support this goal, who invented smarter and smarter new ways to check that we can be sure we're reaching our goal. This is the power of together. Let's look at what our conference this week is contributing. One technology we use is infrasound. An exciting feature of this year's SnT is a metrology workshop. Experts will discuss recent successes in robust calibration practices for infrasound technology. By agreeing a new way to link the power of our technology to an agreed standard of measurement, what we're doing, we're opening up the way for all sorts of new developments. This is CTBTO and you, our wider scientific family, helping define the philosophical frontiers of science to get things done in a new and better way. This is big stuff. Let's give ourselves actually a loud round of applause for celebrating this teamwork. So many of you have contributed to it in so many ways. We so appreciate the partnership that is global, that makes our dream and our cause possible. Our planet makes a lot of noise. It's constantly creaking and gurgling and groaning and sighing. And we have to follow all that noise to spot anything in it that might be a nuclear explosion. Our machines and technologies, the machines you here help invent, keep getting better and better, more and more sensitive. So does our software for analyzing that data. This conference celebrates how this can work in practice. Our global network of sensors follows the impact of the Hoanga Tonga Hoanga Ha'ape eruption last year. You'll hear more about that on Wednesday afternoon, and they'll try to say it as well. We measured our measurements, we picked up that eruption with all three waveforms. The vibrations from that eruption went around the world for several days. You'll hear more about it on Wednesday. Other highlights in this conference: new technologies for our on-site inspections. Sensors and monitors do so much, but from a distance. But when the treaty enters into force, the treaty also provides that scientific experts can visit a site where a suspected test may have taken place, to run first-hand checks on and in and above the ground. Their instruments can rule in or rule out evidence of illicit nuclear test activity. There's a powerful exhibit here featuring a helicopter frame down below and screens that show you what might be done from the air in an on-site inspection. Don't enjoy yourself too much inside the helicopter because we want you to come back to the sessions. Here's another example of the power of together. Most major scientific gatherings aren't like this one. They bring together experts in one or maybe two disciplines, depth, not breadth. But this event is completely different. It brings together so many different disciplines: seismology, acoustics, meteorology, radiation physics, information technology, software engineering, and representatives of 12 different scientific societies are joining us this week. Again, quite different and hugely important. What an opportunity for thinking outside the box, for seeing so many other boxes to explore, for thinking of ways to combine different boxes, or indeed make new boxes. In short, here in Vienna today is a meeting of the global team science. It's taking place to advance one of the great technical issues of our time, one of the great moral issues of our time: ending nuclear explosions. My central theme, the power of together, isn't complete. We need a standard for who counts when we measure together. Let's be honest. Much of the world's scientific leadership has traditionally come from only certain parts of the world, and from one category of people, largely, namely men. This has to change. This is changing, and I see in front of me here some amazing champions for seeing that change on gender in particular. The CTBTO is working really hard to broaden its internal representation and its outreach. You'll see this at this conference with different language panels, presentations from experts from across the world, and keen participation by younger people. You will see it that 50% of our presenters and panelists are women. And please, especially women and participants from less represented nationalities, get inspired and think about applying for jobs and join us at the CTBTO. We would love to welcome you. So, friends, how do I sum up? The Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty is a treaty for the world. 186 states have signed the treaty, 177 have ratified it, and there are more ratifications on the way. Sri Lanka completed its domestic ratification process just 2 weeks ago. And it's my pleasure to tell you that on the 9th of June, the House of the Parliament of Papua New Guinea agreed to ratify the CTBT. Can you feel the momentum? And there are even more in the pipeline. This is not done yet. On the ground, under the ground, in the sea, in the air, nuclear explosions will be detected. Since 1996, when the treaty was agreed, before 1996, over 2,000 tests. Since then, less than a dozen test events. No matter where they are, they will be detected. And this century, only one country testing. By any standard of policy and practice, by any measure of success, this is success. Success on a grand scale. Yes, it happened because the world states themselves agreed that enough was enough. But it needed both science and diplomacy, because the scientists showed that remote verification of nuclear tests was robust and was reliable. The diplomats were able to agree the treaty. We have present with us today some people that were a part of that process of nutting out the final language of our precious treaty. This, friends, is the power of together that you all here today represent. We together use the best possible standards of measuring. And when necessary, we agree new robust standards. And we together measure in incredible detail what's going on. We together analyze in incredible detail what's going on. We together know in incredible detail what is going on. We together are very good at what we do. And as each year passes, we're getting better and better, thanks to you. Don't try to test. You will get caught. I finish with good news and wise words. The good news: the ceiling has not fallen down, and our conference will continue, all right? Now the wise words from someone who is both a towering scientist and something of a diplomat. Just the right person to guide us today, Leonardo da Vinci. He said, "Truth at last cannot be hidden. Nothing is hidden under the sun." And with his wise words, I welcome you to Science and Technology 2023. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Executive Secretary Dr. Floyd. Thank you for teaching us a new way to marvel at beautifully ornate ceilings, but even more so for reminding of us all why we're here and certainly what we can achieve together. Well, after this arousing and very inspiring speech, I have to remind you all that we still live in this world, and certainly over the last year, this world has been confronted with numerous crises. And we have heard language related to nuclear proliferation that most of us certainly thought was a relic of the Cold War, if only. In fact, in remarks to the 10th NPT Review Conference last August, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres noted that the nuclear threat remains very real. And he said, quote, "Humanity is just one misunderstanding, one miscalculation away from nuclear annihilation. In his roadmap for achieving a more peaceful world, securing our common future, an agenda for disarmament, the Secretary General reaffirmed the importance of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and its entry into force as, I quote again, an essential stepping stone on the path to a world free of nuclear weapons. So you all know you've got your work cut out for yourself. The United Nations High Representative for Disarmament Affairs, Izumi Nakamitsu, is charged with leading the UN's efforts to advance disarmament measures around the world. She couldn't be here with us in person today, but she did send us a video message with her remarks. So let's listen in.
Executive Secretary Floyd, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to send this video message to the 7th CTBT Science and Technology Conference. I would also like to convey my regret for not being able to be there in person with you today. In its 7th year, this conference continues to be as relevant as ever. Every passing day, we hear about a new development in the science and technology field that impacts our daily lives and the functionings of our societies. We're in the middle of a technological revolution, one taking place not only in a single area, but in multiple spheres. Artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, quantum technologies, digital technologies, new sensors technologies, and additive manufacturing, to name just a few. These technologies and many others, individually and collectively, have the power to shape the world positively. Rapid advances in science and technology are contributing to human development and serve as key enablers for the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. They have the potential to be used in support of conflict prevention, peace building, and the promotion of inclusive and human-centered approaches. While banking on the benefits of science and technology applications, however, the international community must also be ready to curtail any adverse or unintended consequences of such technologies to international peace and security. For example, while advances in science and technology are no longer solely driven by a few states, the economic and social benefits of technology continue to be geographically concentrated. We need to close the technology gap. The technology diffusion further unveiled gender and social inequalities with differing impacts on men, women, girls, and boys. The private sector also has a role in evaluating the dual-use nature of the products that they develop or systems they design. They can conduct risk assessments around potential misuse and diversion to the military sector. Furthermore, in recent years, advances in various existing and new weapon technologies have raised ethical, political, legal, and humanitarian concerns, including in relation to compliance with international law, especially international humanitarian law, and the questions regarding use of force. In the realm of nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament, there has been a worrisome trend of creating faster, more accurate, and stealthier nuclear weapons. New weapons, with the context of rising tensions, raised a dangerous spectre of new tests, undermining the CTBT and the broader disarmament and non-proliferation regime. As noted, technology can be destabilizing. But it is also a force for good, including for the maintenance of international peace and security. I fully agree with Executive Secretary Floyd that the global moratorium against testing derives much of its strength from the continuous development of the CTBTO's verification system. And I agree that the power of innovation in different fields and the synergetic connections between them can contribute to forming a vision for and help to build a world without nuclear weapons. The UN Secretary General has been long committed to supporting efforts that help reap the benefits of advancements in science and technology, while also focusing attention on the international cooperation needed to mitigate possible harm. His objective is simple. We must ensure that science and technology applications are used for the benefit of humankind and in accordance with the United Nations Charter and international law, including international humanitarian law and international human rights law. Of course, this is easier said than done. This conference serves as a valuable opportunity for representatives from different fields to engage one another and exchange experiences and practices to improve verification capabilities and promote their role in strengthening the treaty and supporting national needs. Of course, the CTBTO has traditionally been a first adopter in leveraging verification technologies to promote disarmament and arms control. The International Monitoring System, or IMS, has been effective in serving its core purpose of detection. The vast data generated by the IMS also contributes to other areas that can benefit humanity, including tsunami warnings, radiological emergency response, and natural disaster risk reduction through the innovation and integration of systems. Through its sharing of open data, the CTBTO has been able to make significant contributions in various fields, from increasing state accountability in their nuclear activities to supporting states in achieving their sustainable development goals through technology transfer and capacity building training. This has raised the importance of the openness of data and brought new approaches to verification and confidence building, key factors in nuclear disarmament and risk reduction that the world urgently needs. The full potential of the CTBTO will only be realized through the CTBT's entry into force. In this respect, I express my sincere gratitude to Dr. Floyd and his team for their enormous efforts in pursuing the signature and ratification of those remaining non-Annex II states and the 8 Annex II states whose ratification is essential for the treaty's entry into force. Thanks to such tireless endeavors, 5 countries have newly ratified the treaty since June 2022, moving the treaty closer to universalization. The CTBT has been instrumental in upholding the norm against explosive nuclear testing, and it is now difficult to imagine a world without the treaty's normative pillar. The continued reinforcement of this norm will rely on our ability to exploit advances in science and technology to make greater contributions to nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation. I look forward to the fruits of your discussions and to leveraging collective expertise and knowledge of the scientific, technical, academic, and policymaking communities. I thank you very much for your attention.
And we thank the United Nations High Representative for Disarmament Affairs, Izumi Nakamitsu, and her staff at the UN Office for Disarmament Affairs for their long-standing advocacy and support of the CTBT and the work of the CTBTO. Ladies and gentlemen, our next speaker This is going to be short because he's no stranger to those of you who have watched the news of the past year unfold. The International Atomic Energy Agency works for safe, secure, and peaceful uses of nuclear science and technology, and is a key pillar of the nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament architecture. Raffaele Grossi has been a staunch partner to and supporter of the CTBT and CTBTO, both during his time as ambassador of Argentina to the United States in Vienna, and also in his current role as Director General of the IAEA. Director General Grossi, welcome to the SnT2023 stage. Good to have you here.
Thank you very much. Good morning. It's a great pleasure to be here with my good friend, Executive Secretary Robert Floyd, with whom I have been working for many, many years on issues that are so important and go to the heart of international peace and security. It is, of course, not a surprise that not myself, the IAEA, should be here joining this important SnT conference, which has become one of the most expected and more important events in the city of diplomacy in Vienna, because of the importance of the message, because of the importance of the issues that are discussed here. The IAEA and the CTBTO share more than the vicinity in the halls of the Vienna International Center. We are together, the power of together. We are together part of an architecture, a family of efforts, indeed, that we put together as an international community to try to prevent the proliferation of nuclear weapons. The moderator was reminding that I used to be an ambassador to the CTBT, but I was before that a negotiator of the CTBT in the halls of the Conference on Disarmament at the Palais des Nations in Geneva. So I am acutely aware of the essential importance of this instrument, without which the non-proliferation system that we have is simply incomplete. So we need, as my friends at the CTBTO say, we need to finish what we started. And this must happen. And I think in this summer of 2023, which is not an easy one, I am just back from a combat zone where the IAEA is trying to prevent a nuclear accident at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. So we know that all the efforts and the importance of the role international organizations like the CTBTO and the IAEA can play in this regard. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is reassuring for all of us to hear from Executive Secretary Floyd and from his team of experts, the world's most brilliant seismologists, radionuclear experts, hydroacoustic experts that we have, that they have everything in place to make sure that no nuclear test will go undetected. Above and beyond this, science and technology at the service of non-proliferation must be strengthened. And this is the basic message. And this is the message that we from the IAEA are bringing here to our friends, to our colleagues of the CTBTO. As they would say, above the noise, there is the truth. And they are there to prove it. Thank you very much, and I wish you all an excellent conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, DG Grossi, for this very important statement here, your message and your continued support of the treaty. Thank you. Nuclear weapons-free zones are important elements in strengthening global nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament norms, as they prohibit the spread of nuclear weapons in certain regions. And these treaties are complementing to the CTBT. The Treaty of Pelindaba established such a zone on the African continent when it entered into force in 2009. Coincidentally, both the Treaty of Pelindaba and the CTBT opened for signature in 1996 and have since developed mutually reinforcing synergies. Somalia has demonstrated its commitment to nuclear non-proliferation as a signatory to the Pelindaba Treaty, as well as the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. Dr. Floyd had the opportunity to travel to Somalia earlier this year, by the way, the first CTBTO Executive Secretary to do so. And during his mission, our next guest reiterated his country's commitment to the nuclear disarmament deal. And we're very happy to have him here. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency Abshir Omar Jamar Huruse, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation of Somalia.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Mr. Executive Secretary, Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's a great pleasure and an immense honor to address you today at the Science and Technology Conference, SnT2023. Representing Somalia in this esteemed gathering as we convene for this momentous occasion. I'm reminded of the resilience and determination that brought us here after the global pandemic cast in shadow upon us. I'm filled with admiration for the convergence of over 1,000 brilliant minds, scientists, researchers, technology experts, academics, diplomats, government officials, civil society members, and aspiring youth. This collective pursuit of knowledge and progress in the field of comprehensive nuclear test ban treaty is truly inspiring. Today, we gather not only to celebrate interact, but also to embrace the harmony of science and technology, united for the noble cause of global peace and security. Throughout this conference, as we delve into the complexity of CTBT's science and technology and explore its robust verification system, let us take a moment to reflect upon the profound impact of this treaty on our world. The CTBT stands as a cornerstone and an indispensable component of the global non-proliferation and disarmament architecture, safeguarding our collective well-being. Its uniqueness lies not only in its objectives, but also in its cutting-edge verification system with a state-of-the-art global network of 304 certified monitoring stations. No nuclear explosion goes undetected, providing essential reassurance to the nations of the world. The value and significance of the CTBT resonate across continents and cultures, as demonstrated by its remarkable membership of 186 states, including 51 African nations. In Somalia, we uphold a principled stance in support of international peace, and our unwavering commitment to a world free of nuclear weapons remains steadfast. We stand tall, guided by these noble principles, and work tirelessly towards a more peaceful and harmonious world. Let it be known that our resolute statements and positions in international fora, as well as the treaties we are bound by, including the 1996 Partial Test Ban Treaty, the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, NPT, and the African Nuclear Weapons Free Zone Treaty, the Treaty of Belendaba, demonstrate Somalia's unwavering dedication to international peace and security and unwavering commitment to the core principles of CTBT, despite the unique national circumstances that have tested our resilience. We have triumphed our adversity and now stand poised to fulfill our duties. It will be remiss if I did not express my deepest gratitude to Dr. Robert Floyd and his dedicated team. Their tireless advocacy and unwavering efforts have brought the CTBT closer to Somalia. I extend my heartfelt appreciation to the Executive Secretary for his official visit to Mogadishu last February, and for extending the gracious invitation to my delegation to partake in this significant conference. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, today I stand before you to reaffirm Somalia's unwavering commitment to playing a constructive role in curbing the proliferation of nuclear weapons. We unequivocally condemn any testing of nuclear weapons, recognizing their devastating potential and the dire consequences they entail. As Somalia embarks on a momentous journey of liberation from terrorist elements, stabilization, reconciliation, socio-economic development, we remain cognizant of our international responsibilities. We understand that signing and ratifying the CTBT is not merely a symbolic gesture, but a testament to our unwavering dedication to global peace and security. Rest assured, we shall fulfill the needful. To simplify that, Somalia is going to sign the treaty, and our relevant institutions are enthusiastically waiting, endorsing, in order to pave the way the ratification of the treaty. Thank you. And as we undertake our internal processes, the principles and processes of the CTBT that shall guide our effort in the days and months to come, in our pursuit of progress, Somalia recognizes the indispensable role of science and technology. We are deeply enthusiastic about establishing a CTBT national data center in Somalia at the earliest opportunity. We wholeheartedly embrace the potential that CTBT data and technologies hold for various civil and scientific applications, facilitating our national development endeavors. We eagerly anticipate the provision of essential equipment and training to harness the transformative power of science. Excellence, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, today I stand not only as a representative of Somalia, but also as a voice for Africa and the world. Our continent, Africa, has endured the tragic consequences of nuclear test explosions in the past. It's our shared responsibility to declare in unison, never again. We stand united, determined to ensure that the harmful effects of nuclear tests are forever banished from Africa's shores and beyond. Let us remember that our collective shield against nuclear threats lies in bolstering the global nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation regime. I commend the CTBT's role in safeguarding our planet for the current and future generations. We bear a collective responsibility here and now. Therefore, I call upon nuclear weapons states to maintain the moratorium of nuclear testing, expedite the entry into force of the CTBT, and ardently strive towards complete and irreversible disarmament. In conclusion, I extend my deepest appreciation to all of those who have contributed to the success of this conference. Let us harness the power of science and technology, fortified by our unwavering commitment to forge a world free from the specter of nuclear weapons. Together, we shall build a future characterized by peace, security, and prosperity. Thank you for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, Your Excellency, certainly for your very express commitment to advancing global movement against nuclear testing. Thank you so much, much appreciated. Well, ladies and gentlemen, in less than 2 years, you heard it earlier, the CTBT has seen 7 additional ratifications, 3 of them African nations, bringing the total of state signatories on the continent to 51. What's more, in Southern Africa, the treaty is universally adhered to, as is the case in both the Central Africa and Western Africa sub-regions, respectively. In February this year, Dr. Floyd had the honor to visit Juba, where he met high-level officials who reiterated support for the objectives of the CTBT. Distinguished guests, please welcome to SnT2023 a representative of Africa's newest sovereign and independent state, His Excellency Mayandut Wall, South Sudan's Undersecretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you, Moderator. Dear Executive Director, Secretary, Dr. Robert Floyd, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, esteemed scientists, ladies and gentlemen, I will pass my greeting from Africa, from Cape Town in far south to Alexandria in far north, and from Mogadishu in Indian Ocean to Dakar in Atlantic Oceans. It is my honor for me today to address this year a comprehensive nuclear test-based treaty organization, Science and Technology Conference. Today, our presence here is a testimonial of our commitments towards promoting science and technology in favor of global peace and security. I'm convinced that promoting science and technology can help us achieve sustainable development goals and enable us in a global south, particularly in Africa, to promote our economics and well-being of our people. I am honored to deliver this statement on behalf of my acting minister, Honorable Deng Dao, who was supposed to be here but is busy somewhere. First and foremost, I wish to note my persuasion for Executive Secretary Dr. Robert for his friendships and kind invitation to these important events. Dr. Floyd's visit to Juba, South Sudan on 15 February this year marks the first visit of CTBTO to our country, and we were very grateful to have him. We persuade the importance of a comprehensive nuclear test-based treaty, and we support its objectives and goals. The government of South Sudan, just like many other African countries, governments recognize the critical role of science and technology as university enablers for addressing peace and security. poverty eradications, inequalities, health, environmental observations, climate change impact, digitalizations, and scientific and sustainable development goals. For the matter, the African Union, AU, adopted the Science, Technology, and Innovations of Africa Strategy 2014-2024. It was important to highlight that the conference STEAM, CTBT, Science and Technology, benefited us all. It is in line with African Union Science, Technology, and Innovations for Africa Strategy 2024, which was launched in 2014. His Excellency, the President of the Republic of South Sudan, Salva Kiir Mayardit, and the entire government of South Sudan, together with Intergovernmental Authority, IGAD, member states, remain key on peace and security in our regions and Africa. South Sudan is committed to international peace in all its forms, and we acknowledge the value of CTBT and related treaties for global peace. In addition, South Sudan is ready to work alongside the international community. Together, we can build a future where the devastating impact of nuclear tests is forever eradicated. Furthermore, we are resolved to our commitment to foster partnerships and collaboration that facilitate the excellence of experts, training, and resources in this regard. We would be interested in pertaining technology cooperation support to strengthen capacity building of our national experts, including in areas of CTBTO, comparative and advantage. By empowering our scientists, researchers, technicians, we can actively contribute to global efforts in the nuclear disarmament and the peaceful uses of nuclear energy. In conclusion, South Sudan is keen to sign and ratify the CTP treaties as a commitment to international peace and security in the nearest time. The recent access of South Sudan to the Biological Weapons Conventions in February 15 this year is manifestations of the South Sudan government commitment in promoting peace and security at the global level and support the related treaties for the world peace. Thank you for your attention, and I urge all to keep sharing knowledge going forward because there is still much we can learn from each other. I wish you a productive conference and let's keep move together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for your express commitment to international peace in all its forms, and the recognition, of course, of the valuable role that the CTBT plays in that context. Now, the urgency of the CTBT's entry into force is as pressing now as it was in 1996. That is some 27 years ago now. The reality of this urgency is not lost on the younger generation, on youth leaders. They are playing an ever more important role in the fight to see a permanent and universal ban on nuclear testing. After all, it's them and their children who inherit the world. From scientific inquiry and research to technological innovation and advocacy, they are stepping up today to create a safer and more secure tomorrow. And we are delighted to have a youth leader here with us at SnT2023. So please join me in welcoming scientist and researcher and past participant in the CTBTO mentorship program for young women in STEM, Aline Olvera.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here. So this is going to be in Spanish. So please take your devices close to you. Buenos días a todos los asistentes reunidos en el Palacio Imperial de Hofburg y de manera virtual. Mi nombre es Aline Olvera y es un privilegio darles la bienvenida el día de hoy. Estimados colegas, investigadores, profesores y brillantes mentes de hoy y de mañana, es un honor contar con su presencia en esta ocasión especial. Hoy marca un hito significativo en nuestro viaje conjunto. Al aquí reunirnos, emprendemos una misión compartida para acercarnos a la seguridad global. Esta ocasión también es una celebración a la colaboración. La diversidad y amplitud de perspectivas aquí reunidas son verdaderamente impresionantes y es el producto del esfuerzo de todos nosotros. Sin embargo, mientras sí existe un avance significativo en la inclusión de partes interesadas, es imperativo reconocerlo. Es necesario mirar más allá. Como participante del programa de mentoría para mujeres en STEM, como representante de la juventud, como mujer, como científica, es con un profundo sentido de responsabilidad que me dirijo a ustedes para discutir y promover el empoderamiento de la juventud en el ámbito científico y en el ámbito internacional. Juntos podemos trabajar hacia el establecimiento de un mundo libre de ensayos nucleares. La importancia de nutrir y empoderar las mentes jóvenes en el campo de la ciencia no puede ser subestimada. El futuro del progreso científico y la paz global está en manos de la siguiente generación. Al dar mentoría, orientación y oportunidades, podemos inspirar y equipar a nuestra juventud con las herramientas necesarias para que hagan contribuciones significativas a la comunidad científica. El empoderamiento de las juventudes es el pilar fundamental sobre el cual se construye el futuro y requiere acciones concretas. Tomemos el caso y el ejemplo perfecto del curso introductorio regional para inspecciones en sitio llevado a cabo en abril de este año. Éramos 80 participantes. De ellos, 39 éramos jóvenes. Jóvenes construyendo experiencias en colaboración con los especialistas de CTBTO. Es este tipo de acercamientos cruciales a los que nos referimos cuando hablamos de espacios equitativos y participativos. Sigamos en este camino incluyente y continuemos aprendiendo de las generaciones del programa de mentoría para mujeres en STEM, el grupo de jóvenes allá afuera que creen en nuestro trabajo. Hagamos de sus necesidades las nuestras y encontremos soluciones juntos. La confianza es un camino de dos direcciones. Demos un paso resonante. A los jóvenes escuchándome, confíen en que tienen la capacidad de influir en las decisiones y de crear un impacto positivo en sus países y en el ámbito internacional. Que su participación marque la diferencia. Les insto a mantenerse informados sobre los avances y desafíos en la implementación del Tratado de Prohibición Completa de Ensayos Nucleares. Aprendan todo lo que les sea posible de fuentes confiables. Involúcrense en espacios como el Simposio de Diplomacia Científica, la Conferencia de Ciencia y Tecnología, acérquense a cursos regionales y grupos juveniles. Colaboren con especialistas. Hagan de esta conferencia una oportunidad personal. Cuando vuelvan a sus comunidades, compartan su experiencia y guíen el cambio de paradigmas. Hoy los convoco a actuar, a asumir la responsabilidad y a liderar el camino hacia la prohibición de ensayos nucleares. Nuestra participación no es negociable. Queridos colegas, este es un llamado a la acción. Hagamos de nuestra misión un esfuerzo a largo plazo que genere resultados desde y para todas las generaciones. Una vez más, les doy una cálida bienvenida a cada uno de ustedes. Aprovechemos esta oportunidad para conectarnos, colaborar y generar un impacto pivotal. Agradezco su presencia y aprovechemos al máximo esta ocasión trascendental. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Ms. Olvera, for bringing your energy, your expertise, your youth, innovation and passion here to the SnT2023, and certainly for ensuring also again how important the work is of securing a nuclear test-free future. The International Monitoring System, in short IMS, is a marvel of engineering and a testament to what can be achieved when scientific collaboration together and political cooperation together, combine for the greater good. Now, the United States is a strong contributor to the verification regime, hosting some 40 IMS stations and contributing to the technical expertise the IMS depends on to ensure its continued readiness and ability to detect a nuclear test by anyone, anywhere, at any time. And this brings us to our next high-level speaker here at SnT 2023. Jill Ruby is the Undersecretary for Nuclear Security of the US Department of Energy and Administrator of the National Nuclear Security Administration. And that has a host of responsibilities, including supporting the development, negotiation, and implementation of arms control treaties, clearly a critical factor in ensuring such agreements are successful. Dr. Ruby, the stage is all yours.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. It's a pleasure and honor to be here today as the United States Undersecretary for Nuclear Security for the Department of Energy and the Administrator of the National Nuclear Security Administration. The National Nuclear Security Administration's responsibilities include the design, production, and maintenance of the nuclear arsenal for the United States and the advancement of nonproliferation and arms control. I'm here today to express the strong and enduring commitment by the United States to the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. I hope to illustrate our commitment by outlining the nuclear principles and obligations of the United States and discussing how the National Nuclear Security Administration uses science-based stockpile stewardship to meet our obligations, including the conducting subcritical nuclear experiments. To conclude my remarks, I will put forward some ideas on advancing transparency. The United States has a simple, overarching principle about our nuclear arsenal. As long as nuclear weapons exist, the United States will maintain a safe, secure, and effective nuclear stockpile for our security and that of our allies and partners. We have formalized processes for assessment and policy reviews. Relevant to today's meeting, the Biden administration's 2022 Nuclear Posture Review states, quote, consistent with the goals of the CTBT, the United States continues to observe a moratorium on nuclear explosives testing and calls on all states possessing nuclear weapons to declare and maintain such a moratorium, end quote. With the current international environment that includes countries making advancements in their nuclear arsenals and some threatening to use and test nuclear weapons, the CTBT and the associated monitoring and verification regime are more important than ever. The United States applauds Dr. Floyd's tireless and successful efforts to get 7 additional countries to ratify the CTBT, and I understand others are in progress. Nonetheless, there remains both political and technical concerns that pose barriers to the U.S. ratification of the CTBT. Additionally, in our government that relies on checks and balances, the National Nuclear Security Administration is required to retain a test readiness posture. There is a natural tension in the policy to observe the test moratorium, support the CTBTO PrEP-COM functions, and retain test readiness. As I hope you will see, we manage this tension with integrity. Importantly, the United States has not conducted a nuclear explosive test since 1992, and the National Nuclear Security Administration has not been directed to prepare for a new test. In fact, for 30 years, the National Nuclear Security Administration has been allocated substantial and sustained funding to advance its science-based stockpile stewardship program that, along with regular flight and lab tests, serves as the basis to maintain the safety, security, reliability, and effectiveness of the U.S. stockpile without nuclear explosives testing. The Science-Based Stockpile Stewardship Program was created because legislation was passed when President Clinton signed the CTBT in 1996. That legislation required an annual letter to the President reporting on the safety, reliability, performance, and military effectiveness of the stockpile, as well as whether nuclear explosive testing is necessary to resolve any issues identified. Scientists and engineers in the NNSA nuclear security enterprise work daily to support the annual assessment, and once a year, the results acquired by each of the 3 national security laboratories are presented to the laboratory director, who in turn writes a letter to the Secretary of Energy. A similar process is conducted by the commander of U.S. Strategic Command, producing a letter to the Secretary of Defense. The Secretaries of Energy and Defense then write a letter to the President that reports on the stockpile and whether there is a technical or military need to test. The other 4 detailed letters are attached without edits. When I was the director of Sandia National Laboratories, I wrote annual assessment letters, and I can say it is a rigorous process and a sobering responsibility. The technical evidence includes detailed simulations on high-performance computing platforms. The physical understanding to develop and validate the simulations is obtained from data collected in highly diagnosed experiments at above-ground science facilities, such as the National Ignition Facility at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory and the Dual Axis Radiography Hydrodynamic Test Facility, DART, at Los Alamos National Laboratory. Other experiments are conducted underground at the former Nevada test site, now called the Nevada National Security Site, or NNSS. Some of these experiments contain nuclear materials, but none create a supercritical nuclear chain reaction. These experiments are all consistent with the CTBT limitations. Furthermore, all key nuclear components for current and planned systems in the U.S. stockpile are based on previously tested designs. Additionally, the United States has significantly reduced the quantity and types of nuclear weapons in our arsenal since the last nuclear test in 1992. For all these reasons, we have been able to maintain the safety and performance of our stockpile without further nuclear explosive testing. I would like to now go into a bit more detail on our experiments at the Nevada National Security Site. Currently, the NNSA is building 2 new subcritical experimental test beds at the U1A complex in Nevada. The test beds will provide data to help address stockpile questions with a special focus on the impact of plutonium aging on weapon performance. Since halting underground nuclear explosive tests, the United States has executed 33 subcritical experiments. The United States is preparing to execute 2 subcritical experiments in 2024 and plans to conduct approximately 3 subcritical experiments per year by the end of the decade. The Nevada National Security Site is also being used for nonproliferation research. For example, when experiments are conducted within the U1A complex or the Big Explosives Experimental Facility, a high explosives research facility also located at the Nevada National Security Site, monitoring is done to improve our understanding of subcritical experiment signatures. Nonproliferation research to improve low-yield nuclear monitoring is also conducted at NNSS using chemical high explosives. Using the U1A underground complex to conduct subcritical experiments and using other capabilities at NNSS for the Science-Based Stockpile Stewardship Program and nonproliferation is the method used by the United States to maintain test readiness. This approach provides experience to people to work underground and maintains the infrastructure and expertise in diagnostics at NNSS. Their work advances our scientific goals in both our weapon and nonproliferation programs. Through these activities, we can continue to be a responsible nuclear weapons state. Beyond our commitment to conduct only subcritical experiments, the United States is also committed to transparency. We have maintained a commitment to transparency in our stockpile stewardship program and our subcritical experimental programs for decades. We were pleased to host Dr. Floyd and his colleagues at our NNSA headquarters in Washington, D.C. in September 2021, at Pacific Northwest Laboratory in October 2022, and at Los Alamos National Laboratory, Sandia National Laboratory, and the Nevada Nuclear Security Site this April. We are also exploring ideas to provide further transparency into our program. These ideas are meant for bilateral or multilateral cooperation, and we are eager to work with those who share our goal of greater transparency. We are open to hosting international observers for monitoring and verification, research and development on our subcritical experiments. We have hosted international observers for past underground chemical high explosives tests and intend to extend invitations for future experiments. Event notifications of our chemical high explosives tests are sent to regional seismic networks as well as the CTBTO PrepCom through the U.S. mission in Vienna. Public sharing of the data gathered from high explosives events occurs, and we will continue to publish and present geophysical experimental findings in peer-reviewed journals and conference proceedings, including source terms and collection information. We are also open to working with others to develop a regime that will allow reciprocal observation with radiation detection equipment at each other's subcritical experiments to allow confirmation that the experiment was consistent with the CTBT. We have several well-considered technical ideas on how this could be effective. Additionally, I look forward to your ideas on further transparency. NNSA is exploring the possibility of live streaming or otherwise releasing video of our subcritical experiments. Our intent is in the long term is to create an environment at the Nevada National Security Site that allows for the possibility of observers to attend from a control room or other vantage point to support chain of custody for detection equipment and to witness subcritical experiments consistent with the CTBT. I sincerely look forward to future engagement with Russia and China on participation in bi- or trilateral verification confidence building, and other technological interactions to support future arms control and nonproliferation agreements. If you would like to know more, I encourage you to attend NNSA's Deputy Administrator for Defense Nuclear Nonproliferation, Corey Hinderstein, as she speaks about examples of U.S. transparency and verification supporting nuclear nonproliferation tomorrow at 3 p.m. To conclude, I want to emphasize again that the United States fully observes the CTBT and is committed to work to achieve its entry into force, recognizing the significant challenges that lie ahead in reaching that goal. We have not conducted a nuclear explosive test since 1992 and have no plans to do so. The United States is also committed to annual stockpile assessments, science-based stewardship, and test readiness. We will achieve our objectives in part by conducting subcritical experiments at the former test site, complemented by focused experiments and detailed simulations executed elsewhere in the U.S. nuclear security enterprise. And today, we put forward ideas on how to advance transparency with the hope we can work with others that support the CTBT. Thank you for your attention and for your contributions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ruby, for the United States' long-standing continued support of the international monetary system. Well, let's take a breather. And let's remind ourselves of where we are. We are in a conference hall at the Hofburg Palace in Vienna. Beautiful Vienna, the capital of Austria. And some would also say, the capital of music. It's inspired so many great composers, Mozart, Mahler, Beethoven, Johann Strauss. And the qualities that make the city an inspiring hub of artistic expression also make it a center of diplomacy, with the city hosting more than 40 international organizations, including one of the 4 headquarters of the United Nations. So it is only fitting that a science and technology conference held here at the Hofburg Palace in Vienna brings together the innovation and technology of the new with a classicism for which this city is probably best known. And I now have the pleasure of inviting to the stage Sabina Hasanova on piano, Jenny Lippel on violin, and Micha Ferk on saxophone. Together, they're trio Clavis, and they will perform for us Mozart's Kegelstadt Trio. Enjoy. Trio Clavis, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you so much for touching our souls with your music. Thank you so much. I don't know about you, but when I listen to Mozart, you can't help but feeling the world must be good. Or at least there must be some good in this world. Now, you see, we already have the scene set for our next session, which is going to be a panel discussion. Now, when the Conference of Disarmament began negotiations on the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty in Geneva in 1994, the world had witnessed a period of unrestrained nuclear testing. Between the dawn of the atomic age in 1945 until 1996, when the CTBT opened for signature, more than 2,000 nuclear tests were conducted in locations around the world. Now, the negotiators of this treaty obviously sought to put the brakes on an arms race that threatened not only global peace, but threatened humanity as a whole. The key to the treaty's stated aim is an international monitoring system that ensures no nuclear tests can be conducted in secret. But the verification regime has delivered so much more, and we will hear about that now. In our next segment, we will hear from 5 distinguished guests about how the science and technology behind the CTBT's monitoring system are delivering benefits for humanity in a quite diverse way. I look forward to the discussion, and I'm absolutely pleased and delighted to invite to the stage now, as we get the final glasses of water and everything served, I would like to invite to the stage now, with your support, His Excellency Mr. Li Song, Permanent Representative of the People's Republic of China to the United Nations and other international organizations in Vienna. Good to have you here. Please take a seat. I would also like to invite Dr. Choli Perez Campos, Director of the International Monitoring System Division of the CTBTO. I would like to welcome Dr. Dwikorita Karnavati. She is head of the Indonesian Agency for Meteorology, Climatology and Geophysics and chair of the Intergovernmental Coordination Group of Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning and Mitigation System. She's also permanent representative of Indonesia with World Meteorological Organization and steering committee of Global Ocean Observing System. Good to have you with us. And we have one more lady talking about not enough female scientists here, Dr. Floyd. I think this panel proves you wrong. Dr. Antonietta Rizzo, Head of Laboratory for Methods and Techniques for Nuclear Safety, Monitoring and Traceability at the Italian National Agency for New Technologies, Energy and Sustainable Economic Development. And last but not least, we have one more chair for Mr. Jeff Bromfield. He's Senior Editor and Science Correspondent for the National Public Radio Science Desk. And now, thank you so much for being here, and please do take a seat, make yourself comfortable. So I've mentioned already so much, also right at the beginning, when I welcomed everybody here, that the international monitoring system is really quite a marvel and surprises us all with the different science that it can assist and create and help the world to be a better place as such. Before I go into details with each and every one of you, just very, very briefly, I would like to know, because we've heard so much about the CBT today, the CTBT, if you could say it in 1, maximum 2 lines, how would you describe the CTBT? Is it like the salvation of the world, nice to have? I mean, what is the CTBT to you, Ambassador Lee?
Thank you for this opportunity. To me, it's a very special moment because I personally participated in the CTBT negotiations, and I witnessed the start of this negotiation and the conclusion of this treaty. So as for your question, what CTBT means to me, I would say CTBT means the start of my career. And also, it's a basis for multilateral efforts ever since the end of Cold War that the N5, together with the international community, to come up with this wonderful treaty, which sets the norm for a global ban for nuclear testing. And I believe the norm will continue to stay with us in the years to come. Thank you.
I like that line, the CTBT means the start of my career. That's a great headline. If you ever write a book, I think it should have that title. Dr. Perez-Campo, what's it mean to you?
I first heard about it when I was an undergrad in Mexico. And for me, it represented a future, safe future, and something that gave me hope. So I'm so honored to be part of the CTBTO now.
Thank you so much. Dr. Karnawati, before we get into all the early tsunami warning, all that, the CTBT, to you personally, what does it mean?
Well, actually, CTBTO or CTBT is strategic and the lifesaver for now and future generations. That's why I'm really honored to be invited here, together here, for sharing and learning the science and technology together. Thank you very much for the invitation to the Secretary General. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Thank you so much. Dr. Rizzo.
Yes, for me, CTBTO marked really the return, the comeback to the work after pregnancy. So it was very, very important for me to start to work again after this interruption. And as a scientist, it was the place in which I learned what is the meaning of a collaborative competition. That is very important for a scientist. And as a mother, it was also very important to work to let to our generation a better world.
Collaborative competition. Yeah. I like that. I like that. Jeff Bloomfield, what's it mean to you?
Well, the CTBT is maybe my favorite nuclear test ban treaty yet to enter into force. Love the fissile material cutoff treaty too, though, so no disrespect to that. I think this is also, for me, this is maybe in my 20 years of covering nuclear sort of weapons and nuclear physics, it's never felt more relevant, which is slightly worrying. I think that we are entering an era where the CTBT feels, and the CTBTO in particular, feels more important than it really ever has. And maybe we can talk a little more about that. But.
Yeah, we can be really grateful that it exists already, can't we? Well then, let's get into the field of your expertise and the start of your career. Obviously, I would like to start with you, Ambassador Lee, because you mentioned it already. You were a delegate in Geneva when the CTBT was negotiated. I was in the conference of disarmament. So, as somebody who was there at the very start, as the document took shape, could you tell us what it was like to get this treaty negotiated? Because it was not something that happened overnight. And also maybe about the timing that it happened. And because we do talk about the IMS in particular in this panel also, how was that envisaged back then?
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning about the timing for this negotiation. I think it is indeed very important. It is, we have these negotiations started and the treaty concluded just a couple of years after the Cold War. And I believe that's what we called the golden ages for multilateral arms control and disarmament efforts. And during the CTBT negotiations, I would say, the timing is very important. The Cold War is away, and there isn't any Cold War mentality or bloc confrontation or even politicalization in the meeting room. And people are concentrating our effort on treaty provisions, political provisions, and also provisions on verifications, including the system of IMS, so that we put all our different ideas, different concerns together and work on them. And eventually we address each and every national concern and come up with all those necessary provisions for this treaty. So we have this treaty. I think this is very important. Just now, Executive Secretary Floyd mentioned the power of together. I would add to his statement that it is the power of looking ahead in the same direction for all the countries involved in that treaty negotiation. I think it is indeed very important. Both the P5 or N5 are looking at the same direction, together with other members of the international community to look in the same direction to have this treaty. I said that this is the start of my career, and I benefit a lot from this conviction that we can, when we look at the same direction, we can achieve treaty like CTBT and many other efforts. I'm still having this confidence for the rest of my career. And as for the IMS, I would say that during the negotiation, I was lucky enough to, as a very young diplomat, to work on the verification part of this treaty, including on-site inspection mechanism and also IMS and IDC and so many concepts and ideas that I've been working on in black and white. Now we are talking about how we further this effort in reality. This is indeed marvelous. But at the time for negotiation, I would say the IMS system, international data center, and all these things are first and foremost for the purpose of the treaty verification.
Right.
At that time, nobody can imagine that it has to take so many years for the treaty to come into force. But I think by that time, we are collecting all, the best and necessary elements for treaty verification in the treaty text. The IMS, International Data Center, infrasound, and so many state-of-the-art technologies. We put them together. And I would say that as a result of this treaty negotiation, we have indeed have a very effective provisional operating verification system globally. And I'm also very happy to learn that this system is also contributing to a wider range of purpose, not only for international peace and security, but also for development. So this is why we are here for this Science and Technology Conference to further elaborate and further utilize this system to further benefit all the members of the international community. This is indeed a very marvelous, successful story for this system.
And one that wasn't sort of planned as such at the outset, because it was more important to get the treaty signed and to get a verification system that would serve that treaty and the aim of that treaty, namely ending nuclear testing. But there are so many positive side effects, as we will hear now from Dr. Perez Campos as the first. Now, you're a geophysical engineer and seismologist. You're the director of the CTBTO's International Monitoring System Division. The IMS uses 4 distinct technologies to monitor the globe for nuclear tests. So there's seismic, there's hydroacoustic, infrasound, and radionuclide data. It was discovered that the data that the system collects also has other uses. To what other areas can this data then be applied to?
Well, let me start by saying that the system has been very successful in its mandate. As we heard from Dr. Floyd this morning, no nuclear test goes in secret. We are able to detect it with this incredible network composed of those 4 technologies that you just mentioned, distributed around all the globe within 29 countries. But this data is just wonderful, very high quality, very timely produced, sent to the IDC where it's processed and analyzed, and it's also distributed to the national data centers with other countries can make use of this data. It's used for the verification regime, but it has been also used for its own purposes like monitoring seismic activity in the countries or in the regions. Tonight we have a Spanish-speaking panel, And we'll hear the example of Republican Dominican that it's using the data in their national data center for seismic monitoring. Also, we heard from Dr. Floyd this morning that during the conference, we will hear some results on some observations from infrasound, hydroacoustic, and seismic stations that recorded the explosion of the, I'm not gonna try it, sorry, I cannot say it full, Honga Tonga volcano. I apologize for not learning the whole name of the volcano.
Jeff will help us out later, no doubt.
Please, I really admire Dr. Floyd, how he managed to do it, the whole thing. I'm just gonna call it Honga Tonga. But that's another very nice example on how we are getting all this marvelous data and learning a lot about this kind of explosions. Also, we heard and we read in a very famous journal about the discovery of a new species of whales thanks to the hydroacoustic data. And we'll hear many examples during this week. For example, the use of humanitarian purposes and risk reduction for that Dr. Navati, sorry, we'll talk more about it. And also in the Spanish speaker panel, we will hear the case of Chile and also the case of Spain and the case of Central America. They are receiving all this data for that purpose. Of course, the radionuclide stations have been also very useful in monitoring and the release of these particles, and Dr. Rizzo is going to talk about it, and we'll see more examples during the week. So this is very exciting. As a scientist, when I see this data, and I see that people is using it through the system, the BDEC platform that Dr. Rizzo might talk about it, is just wonderful. And also to see a very committed team of people working every day to have this high quality data available to the world is just amazing.
Fantastic. I wish I had known that you announce all the different sessions that are happening over the next few days. I would have given you a warning to take note so that you don't miss any of that, but thank you so much for pointing that out. Dr. Karnavati, so we've heard about the importance and the excitement that the IMS verification system and the data, certainly, that we have is giving science. You, as the head of Indonesia's Agency for Meteorology, Climatology, Geophysics, and chair of the Intergovernmental Coordination Group of Indian Ocean Tsunami Warning and Mitigation System. It's a long title, but what's due is due. So you know firsthand the value of this data. I would like you to share, if you could, how this data contributes to your work when it comes to tsunami early warning efforts and disaster risk prevention.
Well, let me start with the important remarks by the Secretary General, Dr. Floyd, this morning. This roof is not falling down because of the systematic measurement. Indeed, it is really true. Back to the year of 2004, with the Indian Ocean tsunami, could you imagine, in the beautiful morning, Sunday morning, everyone have a picnic, relax in the Indian coastal area, Indian Ocean coastal area. And suddenly, 30-meter wave with the speed of almost 500 meters per hour, it's like a jet speed, hit us. Didn't we have any measurement? We do have. We do have measurement. We have seismograph, which can be calculated to predict or to provide the warning for tsunami. But unfortunately, our measurement was not designed in a systematic system, just measurement. So that's why almost 230,000 of people dead and about 10 million of US dollar economic losses. So we learn very much the importance of systematic measurements. So that's why in 2008, Indonesia signed a tsunami early warning arrangement with the CTBTO. Since then, we have, starting November 2008, we have systematic measurement. We have the truly early warning system. At that time, it's still less than 100 measurements, but has been in the system. Then, 2012, we ratified the treaty in 2012, and we received about 6 CTBTO auxiliary IMS, and indeed it is very important to support the timely, accurate early warning. However, in 2018, we do have the system, measurements of seismograph, and we have another tsunami. We do not know if the tsunami will happen, because actually the earthquake which is measured by the system is due to the lateral movement of the ground floor of the sea. In theory, it must not be a tsunami, because the tsunami must be the vertical movement, no vertical movement. So what happened? We have the system, and we cannot cope with the tsunami. The warning was late. Actually, the warning system in 2018 is for 5 minutes. So when we have the earthquake, within 5 minutes, maximum 5 minutes, the warning must be released, because normally the tsunami comes in 20 minutes. That's the normal condition. What happened in 2018, our system was not able to detect, because the tsunami came in 2 minutes instead of 20 minutes.
Didn't play by the rules.
Yeah, so we could not give the warning, because actually no tsunami happened. So we learn it is we call that combined seismic and non-seismic. It is because something else. So that means we need additional instruments in the systems. That the instrument to detect as soon as possible the changing of the sea level. We have that. Unfortunately, the system was collapsed because of the earthquake shaking is very strong. The system was collapsed. So what we need indeed is the systematic system, but need to be strengthened under any shaking. So that's the learn. And the last learning is still in 2018. There is no earthquake at all. No earthquake at all. Suddenly tsunami comes. We have the system. No earthquake. What happened? I suspect something wrong. It must be volcano. And our agency is not responsible to monitor the volcano. And the volcano is monitored by a different agency. So we learn again. Indeed, we need to have systematic systems. We need to have additional strengthening. And also, we need to have data exchange.
Right, partnerships.
Partnerships, open data policy. So this is what we learn about the international monitoring system. All of that to be dedicated for the human life, for the safety of human life. And thanks the support from CTBTO, and we do need several others, different types, in order to detect not only the tsunami because of the seismic, but also because of the because of the volcanic eruption, like in Tonga, and also because of other like landslides, submarine landslides. So there are various types of tsunami. So that's why we are really eager to participate, to join in CTBTO in order to have like infrasound, which can detect various types of frequency of the wave. And finally now starting in 2004, we have only 20 seismographs when the Indian Ocean tsunami happened. No system. And now we have almost 500 instruments seismograph with several satellite support. And hopefully through CTBTO we can more stronger and save more people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kanarati. I'll get back to some of those things you said. Thank you so much. But first, Dr. Rizzo, Dr. Perez Campos already sort of rolled out the red carpet to you, the international monitoring system designed to detect nuclear tests. And we heard that over the years, there's been the realization that the data collected could also be used for other applications, of course, including contributing to scientific inquiry. And in your work, you used what Dr. Perez Campos referred to as VDEC, the Virtual Data Exploitation Center. And it would be very interesting to find out in what way this is unique for your work, how it's aided your work.
Yes, indeed, we use this instrument in a triangular way because we are running the National Data Center for radionuclide in our country for the CTBT verification. But along our study, we were focusing and we were collecting a lot of data from the IMS network, analyzing data, reading and discussing data from the International Data Center. And several times we find some anomalies in the detection. And we can screen out this anomaly. We are sure that are not related to any violation, but still, as a scientist, we were curious about that. Why this station is behaving in that way, why we have this periodically detection. And during a public presentation of the CTBO purpose in our municipality, we received a question from the public. It was a professor from University of Statistics, and he said, oh, you have one of the key enabling technologies for Industry 4.0 revolution. You have big data, you have data cloud, and you have data mining. Why can't you spread with us all these technologies in order to understand better how to control the process? Because you know, the statistical approach can be used to make process control of an equipment or a device or a system. And for us, it was a very strange question because we know about confidentiality. We cannot spread anything with you. It's a nuclear security purpose. We are an agreement with our minister. But luckily, we have a very interesting conversation during Science and Technology with Provisional Technical Secretariat people that explain this instrument, the VDEC instrument. And so they gave us a lot of support to understand the purpose, also the procedure to get this VDEC contract signed. At the beginning, we were thinking that we should pay for having data. And so the universe said, no, we were not paying anything. And finally, 5 years ago, the university signed the VDEC contract. We are in this triangle, so university, Provisional Technical Secretariat, and National Data Center. And we work together. So we were able to share with them the data that we can share with them. Obviously, we still take some data that are confidential. And we can make some statistical analysis applying this concept to the noble gas monitoring stations. The really interesting things for us is just it was a way to take our feet on the ground, you know, because when you are working for something that you would like never happen, sometimes you lose some reality. And so this was a way. For them, it was a way to have access to this data. And it was very important also, another purpose of this VDEC contract. You should imagine that the students are going to discuss their activities during their final examination. And they are discussing in front of their teachers, yes, but also in front of their friends, families, siblings. And so now in our city we have a community of civil society that know about CTBTO, verification regime, international monitoring system. This is very important because the real people know what are we doing in our work. And the other benefits that the university has received from us, and I've already mentioned before, is that in CTBTO, as a scientist, I can tell you that there is a different approach to the scientific research. And it was, I called collaborative competition. You know that scientists are competitors by nature, and they are very jealous about the data. Try to ask a scientist to share their data with you before he has made any publication. You will get no answer at all. And, but during CTBTO, we still, as scientists, are competitors. We want to arrive before the other to find something. But we have a common objective, and this helps us to have this collaborative competition that is really very rich, and you can reach a lot of objectives much more faster and much more stronger than in the other way. And finally, with this collaboration with university, we can attract also young people, young people, and also a lot of diversity people. So it's a way, because in the nuclear security field, there is some common features of people: scientists, engineering, a lot of men, and in this way we can attract and we can expose to these objectives also young people and female people, and let them to start to work in this subject.
Wonderful. I take with me that, please, yes, absolutely. Because you stressed it, that when you said, first of all, you thought you had to pay for the data. I think it can't be stressed enough, especially we live in times where profit so often is absolutely everything, but not when it comes to the CTBTO and the VDEC program and the data sharing. Also, as you mentioned about competitiveness, competition is good, but, and there I quote Ambassador Lee, it's about having the same goal. Competition should not get in the way of achieving the goal, clearly. So that is what I'm taking away from that right now. And the communication, the bit about them presenting everything in front of their family, that would have scared me a lot. Family and friends, that's the worst audience you can imagine. Jeff Broomfield, your field is also quite clearly communication. That's what you do, and your coverage of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty goes back to 2009, at least, I'm told. That's when you covered it for the Scientific American magazine. And as a journalist, why is the work of the CTBTO is quite complex to an outside world? Why should it be relevant to your readers, your listeners? And how do you translate this complexity in order to make it relevant to them?
Well, it's a very odd time to be a journalist, I would say, because we've never, I can't remember so much misinformation just flying around the world. People just say anything these days, politicians and influencers and just all sorts of things about, coming through COVID and all that. I had to cover a lot of that. And yet there is such a hunger for data among readers and viewers and listeners. And there's so much more data out there. The conflict in Ukraine, the beginning of that showed up on Google Street Maps as traffic jams in key areas. So we live in this very sort of dissonant time where, on the one hand, there's a lot of narratives that are quite questionable, and on the other hand, there's more data than ever. And I think navigating that as a journalist is really tricky. I think where the CTBTO fits in, and why I've been so steadfastly interested in it throughout my career as a science journalist, is you are just a key source of data. And I've been thinking about all the different data that's come out through CTBTO. Fukushima, the Chelyabinsk meteor. I'm going to try and say it, Honga Tonga, Honga Hapai.
Very good.
Someone, you can shout if I got it wrong, but that was, and of course, North Korea's nuclear testing. At every turn, really, the CTBTO has been there. Not always directly as an organization, but I think one of the key things, I was thinking about this the other day, is the fact that IMS data is available to academics in member states. And often those academics are the ones that provide it to the public, that end up talking about it with the public. But underpinning it is the CTBTO. And so it's been really key for several really important stories I've covered over the past few decades. So, yeah.
And what was the feedback?
Say that again?
Your readers or your listeners, do they give you feedback? Do they say, thank you so much for this article, now I'm really scared, or now you put my mind at ease? Do you get anything back about what you're writing?
Oh, as a journalist, if only everyone would just write in and say thank you every time I wrote something.
All very polite.
Nice. No, you know, the feedback is really in the way the articles spread. Again, like in an era where misinformation can spread, I can tell you, data spreads too. When you put out there information about the size of the eruption in Tonga Tonga, millions and millions of people want to read about that. They want to see what this organization has to say about it. They want to know how it compares to past atmospheric testing, you know, nuclear explosions. And so, yes, again, when I started, I think when I say there's a hunger, that's reflected in the attention that these stories get when they are published and when the organization speaks, and the credibility that the CTBTO has.
Yeah. Ambassador Lee, you said it at the beginning, you're well aware of all the different possibilities that the IMS is now offering. But in what way does China contribute to the IMS?
I would say China's contribution to IMS and to the whole international monitoring system operated by CTBTO are twofolds. On the one hand, we are working effectively together with the CTBTO, the team of Dr. Floyd, to make sure that China's contribution according to treaty obligation to the IMS system will continue to be the most effective one. And both for our laboratories, our stations, and so on and so forth. So we are, over the past more than 2 decades, we have these kind of cooperation is running very well. And on the other hand, we are also working together with CTBTO and also many countries, especially from developing world, so that to make sure that this system is not only contributing to the treaty verification purpose, but also to a wider range of application which this system can benefit member states and international community. Before this meeting, we discussed with the Indonesian colleague that we have very good bilateral cooperations in this regard, and I believe this kind of cooperation is happening between China and many other countries, especially from developing world. So we will continue to make sure that the twofold effort on my part, on the part of my country, will continue to benefit not only for the treaty purpose, but also for a wider range of civilian application of the IMS system.
Thank you so much. I have a question for our 3 scientific representatives here, because in the speech of Dr. Floyd at the beginning, there was a beautiful image about, you know, thinking out of the box, and especially how this conference offers itself to meeting other people who think out of the box, but they might have different boxes, and together you create yet another new box. With this image, I'm wondering what kind of new box has the IMS created for you in your experience? I mean, Dr. Perez Campos, Mexico obviously has seen its share of earthquakes, very earthquake prone, and there were 2 magnitude 8 earthquakes, even above, one in 1985, that obviously was before the treaty was signed, before we had the IMS, and the other one in 2017. I'm wondering, was the difference noticeable now that we have that data?
Yeah, it was a big difference. If I refer to the earthquake in 85, there was only very few stations in Mexico and in the world. And I would say 2017 earthquake was probably the best registered earthquake in Mexico of magnitude 8, not only nationally, but also globally. So the other very important thing on thinking outside the box that CTBTO offers and the IMS offers is that before we used to think on solutions with the separate technologies. Seismologists only use seismic stations, acoustics only use hydroacoustic stations, and it came infrasound. And actually CTBTO was pioneer on setting up the infrasound stations. And now you have scientists combining the old technologies in making new science and new, finding new things. And then you combine the radionuclide stations, and then you have a whole different spectrum. So I think CTBTO is allowing scientists to think out of the box. Yeah. And for Mexico, we use the seismic stations mainly to monitor the big earthquakes that happened in 2017. But we'll hear also tonight how infrasound stations are being used to monitor volcanoes in Latin America. So you will find the combination of both technologies, seismic and infrasound.
Thank you. Dr. Kanawati, there was just one point when you were talking earlier about all the learnings and how important it is, obviously, that the warning goes out early enough for people to take heed. How tech-savvy are the people? How do you translate the warning, the data, that it actually reaches people, that they understand what to do?
Well, I'm sorry. Well, that's the most challenging part. How could we transfer the warning from high technology into very simple, should be understandable by the people? So we are trying to combine the high technology and then strengthening with the local or traditional technology. For instance, we send the national warning from the capital to the capital of the province. And then from the province, the community can choose which one will be the most appropriate for them, depend on the locality. So when we have a CTBTO instrument like a seismograph, indeed it is very useful for us because the spot is quite wide range, and then it is integrated into the national system, a national network, and then the warning can be provided. Then, for instance, from Jakarta, go to Banda Aceh. In Banda Aceh, they have their own, they also use the national warning, but not only that. Still, the local from the mosque, from the church, so it's like that. So we need to have integration of local and advanced technology. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kanawati. Briefly, Dr. Rizzo, because you mentioned something about going to schools and them having to present themselves and what they know. And you mentioned about this opens the door to diversity and also to young female scientists. Why is that important?
Yes, it's very important because you know that progress are going to go forward because of a collective brain. So we need a lot of brain work together to finalize some research. And this is also important because diverse people carry some different priority and different objective. But everybody should have the right to raise the voice to say something about a particular topic. So this is why it's so important for us. We realize also in our daily life in the laboratory, that is very important to have different people coming also from different countries. Sometimes it's very interesting because they can have a different approach and they can propose solutions. And it's really very important just not to be all the time self-explaining. And this is a way we can go towards a common objective. Having also a lot of female engaged in this topic is also very important because they will, female will pass the knowledge and to the next generation. So it is important that, because sometimes for young people it's not really very important what your mother are doing or is doing or what your father is doing, but it's very important what your girlfriend is doing. And so this is very important that because we can let the message go through the generation.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Rizzi. Ambassador Lee, obviously, as you have been there from the very beginning, it has to be you to have the last word in this panel discussion. You were just hearing various examples of the data being collected by the MS, being used, something that you probably didn't foresee when you were part of those treaty negotiations almost 30 years ago. How surprising is this to you? And even more importantly, where do you see the future of the IMS?
I believe what has been discussed now and over the past sessions of Science and Technology Conference indicate the value of both the treaty of CTBT and also the IMS. And it is indeed a very successful story, both for the treaty, the norms set by the treaty, and also IMS contribute to the world. And I believe that in the years to come, we will continue to benefit from this norm and also benefit from the contribution of IMS to a wider range of international community, both in the security aspect and also for the development expert. I have full confidence in this regard, and both for my country and in my personal capacity, I will continue to contribute to this cause. You have my words, Robert.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Ambassador Lee. Thank you so much, Dr. Perez Campos. Thank you so much, Dr. Carnavati, Dr. Rizzo, and Jeff Broomfield. Time flies when you're having fun. Time is up, I'm afraid. Thank you so much for sharing your insights with us, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Have to shake hands first, sorry, but I still have to tell you something. Thank you so much. Jeff, you mustn't miss out, thank you. Because I promised you at the very beginning that obviously we're very much interested to keep you healthy and well-sustained. So yes, there is a lunch break coming up now. But before we break for lunch, just a few housekeeping notes. It'll help you later. First of all, lunch is until 2 p.m. and it is served in the Winter Garden and the Rittersaal. After lunch, please join us for a panel discussion on the role of the Francophonie and multilingualism in advancing international discussions, followed by a deep dive into how the EU and CBTO or CTBTO cooperation is contributing to nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament. Interpretation into all official languages will be provided for in-person attendees, and as sitting up there, the interpreters, perhaps you just want to thank them for all the great work they've been doing so far already. Thank you so much. Later today, we will have concurrent panels in Arabic, French, and Spanish on a range of topics from mutual benefits of the CTBT to building regional capacity to disaster risk mitigation. We encourage you, if you haven't done it yet, to download the SnT app on your mobile device, Apple Store, Google Play, because that way you can find your way around. There's an agenda, there's biographies on all the speakers. It tells you pretty much everything. And we also invite you to post to social media about the conference using the hashtag SnT2023. Thank you so very much for having me here with you this morning. And now, enjoy your lunch. Program continues at 2 p.m.